Rentaro is a young orphan struggling to find his place in a world ravaged by the Gastrea virus. Despite his rough life, he's determined to protect the people he cares about, even if it means becoming a demon slayer. In a near-future world devastated by a parasitic virus known as Gastrea, humans are transformed into terrifying monsters, forcing the last survivors to live behind massive monolith walls. 10 years ago, Rentaru's world was shattered when the Gastrea virus took his parents. Now, as a young high school student, he's fueled by one mission: to avenge their deaths and save humanity from the same fate. This made him despise the Gastreas so much that he decided to become Eren Yeager and wipe them off from the world. Back to the present time, Rentaro heads to an apartment where he gets stopped by a police officer who asks for his identity. Rentaro assures him that he is from Tendo Civil Security Company, whose job is to deal with Gastrea infections. The police officer doubts him as he looks too young to join such a civil security, but he lets him pass as they are already too late. With his heart pounding, Rentaro cautiously approaches the door, gun drawn. In one swift motion, he kicks it open, ready for a Gastrea attack only to freeze in shock. The figure before him isn't a monster, but a masked man, standing over the bodies of two dead officers. Beside the masked man are the corpses of the two cops who went inside earlier. Rentaro asks the masked man if he's from another civil security company, but the answers he gets shocks him. The masked man confesses that it was he who killed these two cops, not a Gastrea. Rentaro doesn't understand why he would kill the two cops, but as an upstanding member of society, he asks the masked man to surrender himself. Seeing that he is not willing to surrender, Rentaro shifts into a fighting mode to subdue him. But the masked man is far too strong and doesn't even flinch from Rentaro's attacks. The commotion inside the building causes the cops to come inside, but the masked man quickly disposes of them and leaves after saying that humanity is doomed. The remaining police officers are shocked and ask what just happened, but Rentaro doesn't say anything and leaves. Meanwhile, a young girl named Anju is kicking her legs in anger when suddenly a heavily injured man comes out from the alley, which causes Anju to become cautious. The man asks Anju to help him, but Anju only feels pity for him as the man is already infected by the Gastrea virus. The man isn't willing to believe that he is infected, but his body tells him otherwise. Just then, his eyes go wide as a few spider legs pop out from his back, and he quickly transforms into a giant spider with traces left of his humanity. Anju is about to engage in combat when Rentaro arrives and asks her to step back. Rentaro is the police officer from before who is shocked to see a Gastrea, so he shoots it with his gun, which does nothing but only irritates the Gastrea even more. Rentaro calls him a buffon for fighting Gastrea with normal bullets and pulls out his special gun that has Varanium bullets inside. These bullets are like kryptonite to Gastrea, so Rentaro can halt it for a while dealing substantial damage. However, the Gastrea is still a bit too much for him to handle, so Anju steps in as her eyes turn red. She quickly jumps in the air and lands a kick on the spider's head, which blows it apart. The police officer who is watching this from the side is shocked and realizes that Anju must be the initiator assigned to Rentaro. However, he still can't help but feel afraid of her, as all initiators are cursed children who have Gastrea blood inside their veins. Moreover, these cursed children are always female, which makes it even more creepy. Rentaro sighs after seeing the look in the police officer's eyes, as everyone else in this city is the same as him. They all fear these cursed children who were unfortunate to be born with Gastrea blood in their veins. A cursed child is born when a pregnant woman is affected by Gastrea infection, which causes their children to be born with superhuman strength, which makes them feared among other normal humans. But the irony is that these children are the only hope of humanity in resisting the monsters known as Gastrea. After Anju is done dealing with Gastrea, she quickly hugs Rentaro and asks him to praise her. But Rentaro is embarrassed and asks her to stop clinging to him. But Anju fights back by saying that she will be his future bride, so it's her right to cling to him. But this only makes Rentaro more worried, as the police officer can arrest him at any time for being a Dradraken. Anju stops after noticing the danger of Rentaro being arrested, and instead reminds him that the Beansprout sale might end soon. This causes Rentaro to scream at her for not reminding him as soon as they both run to the supermarket to buy before they run out. After buying the cheap bean sprouts, Rentaro heads back to the office where he finds Kisara in a bad mood as usual. She complains to Rentaro that it's all his fault that they are struggling so much financially. Rentaro argues back by saying that it's the fault of their office located at such a weird location. While they are fighting, Kisara's stomach growls from hunger, which causes her to become embarrassed. But after seeing the bean sprouts in Rentaru's hand, she becomes depressed as she also wants to eat steak and hamburgers once in a while. But Rentaru reminds her of their financial condition, which causes both of them to become depressed. While they are talking about work stuff, Kisara mentions that it's been a year since Rentaro and Enjoy became partners. She also mentions that Rentaro has started to smile a lot more now. This brings her to the topic of Rentaro's future goal, and that's when she accidentally mentions Rentaro's parents, which causes his mood to become sour. He asks her to stop talking about them as they are already dead. Saying this, he leaves, which causes Kisara to feel bad as she didn't mean to hurt his feelings. After leaving the office, Rentaru heads to Sumire's lab, which is an official mad scientist that likes to experiment on corpses as if they are toys. While she is playing with her new favorite corpse, Rentaru asks her about her findings. So she explains to him that the Gastrea virus doesn't mutate the human body, but it rewrites their entire genetic code, which causes them to perfectly transform into their new forms without becoming weak due to humanity's limitations. Rentaru stays at the lab to discuss his findings with Sumire, and then leaves to head home. After returning home, he cooks a cheap-looking meal for Anjou and himself, but despite it being so bland and cheap, Anjou still cherishes it as it is made by her beloved Rentaru. But she notices that Rentaru is in a bad mood, so she asks him if he wants to have her for dinner, which causes Rentaru to almost spill out the food in his mouth as he yells at her to go change into sleeping wear. After cleaning up the mess, Rentaru asks Anjou to come sit so he can give her the drug that keeps the cursed children from going berserk. In other words, these cursed children are just junkies who can't survive without shooting themselves with needles every once in a day. After Anjou is done with her daily dose of the drug, Rentaru heads to sleep after taking a fresh bath. But Anjou barges into his room and throws a tantrum until he lets her sleep in his bed beside him. The following morning, Rentaru drops Anjou at school and makes sure that she is not getting bullied. Anjou assures him that she has already made some friends and that he doesn't need to worry about her. Later, Rentaro is at school when he receives a call from Kisara, who informs him that the Defense Ministry has invited them for an urgent task. Rentaro immediately packs his bag and heads to the Defense Ministry with Kisara, where he finds that all the other civil security companies are there too. A burly guard blocks Rentaru's path, eyes narrowing as he demands, "Where's your initiator?" Rentaru's blood boils as he realizes the man is talking about Anjou like she's nothing more than a weapon. This makes Rentaru extremely angry, so he is about to pull his gun on him when he is stopped by Kisara. The burly man is also berated by his own civil security company's president, who warns him to control his impulses. Now that everyone is here except one of the presidents, the chairman of the Defense Ministry turns on the screen which projects the current ruling body of the Tokyo district, Madame Saitenshi. Alongside Saitenshi is her advisor Kikunoju, who is also the grandfather of Kisara, and the man who took Rentaro in his care when his parents died in the great tragedy 10 years ago. Saitenshi greets everyone and informs them that once this meeting starts, everyone will be forced to accept the task. So if anyone wants to step out, they should do it before the meeting starts. Fortunately, no one leaves, which makes Saitenshi pleased, so she starts the meeting by informing all of them about a case that holds extreme importance to national security. So they all must immediately locate the case and deliver it to the Defense Ministry. After making the announcement, she asks everyone if they have a question. So Kisara raises her hand and asks Saitenshi about the contents of the case. But Saitenshi refuses to tell her, as it's none of her business. Saitenshi doesn't mind the taunt in her voice. Instead, she reminds Saitenshi that it's right for everyone to know what they are risking their lives for. But Saitenshi shuts her up once again by saying that it is extremely secretive, and that she isn't in authority to inform her. Suddenly, a cold voice cuts through the room. Everyone turns to see a masked man sitting calmly in the seat reserved for the missing president. The masked man greets Rentaro and tells everyone that he will also be taking part in this game of locating the case, and whoever wins this game will be the winner. However, his arrogant words displease everyone, so he informs them that he is a promoter as well named Kagatine, so it's fair that he participates in the game as well. Just then, a young girl walks into the room, whom he announces to be his daughter, as well as his initiator, Kohina. The burly man from before doesn't like his haughty attitude, so he immediately attacks him, but the burly man is stopped by Kohina. This makes everyone shoot Kagatani in fear, but no bullet can reach him. as they all are stopped by an invisible barrier. Kagatane informs everyone that this barrier is a result of a force field created by his fully mechanized body that he acquired in the Anti-Gastrea project. This shocks everyone when suddenly Rentaro warns everyone to get down, as all the bullets shot at Kagatane return in their direction. Unfortunately, they are too late as the bullets turn them into beehives. Before saying farewell to Rentaro, Kagatan drops a present for Rentaro, and then he leaves with his daughter, causing the room to go silent. Just then, the secretary of the missing president barges into the room and informs everyone that he is missing, which causes Rentaro to look at the gift, which reveals the bloody head remaining of that president. The following day, Rentaro is heading back home with Anjou, who forces him to go on a little shopping spree when his eyes fall on a cursed child running away from two men who call her a little thief. The two men beat the little girl for stealing their stuff, which causes the little girl to extend her hand towards Anjou to beg for help. Anjou wants to help her, but she is stopped by Rentaro, who doesn't want to expose her identity, fearing that it might cause Anjou to lose her normal life. Just then, two police officers arrive on the scene and take the little girl away. This causes Anjou to become angry at Rentaro, as she considers him to be her superhero. This makes Rentaro also disappointed himself, so he immediately chases after the police car and arrives at a nearby parking lot where the police officers brutally beat the little girl for being a cursed child and then leave after putting a hole in her head. Rentaro arrives a bit late at the scene and finds the girl's body lying on the floor with blood all over her face. Rentaro is about to leave in despair when the little girl suddenly moves, which makes Rentaro realize that she might be able to survive. He immediately takes her to the hospital where the doctor can save her, but the treatment price causes him to lose the last bit of his savings. But he is still glad that he managed to save her, which causes Anjou to become happy too. They are returning home when Rentaro is stopped by Kagatan, who offers Rentaro a lot of money for joining his team. But Rentaro declines it, even though he desperately needs the money. This causes Kohina to attack Rentaro, but Anjou intervenes and stops her. Seeing that they both are tied, Kagatan leaves, reminding Rentaro that this world is extremely rotten. Just like what Kagatani said, this world is indeed rotten as the following day. Rumors start spreading in the school that Anjou is a cursed child, which causes her to suffer from extreme isolation, which eventually leads her to run away from school. Rentaro learns about this and complains to the teacher, who instead berates Rentaro for not informing that Anjou was a cursed child. This causes Rentaro to become extremely angry, so he leaves to find Anjou at home. But he doesn't find her anywhere, so he becomes extremely worried and heads to the cursed children's hideout to ask if they saw her. But the caretaker there informs him that Anjou isn't here. After learning this, Rentaro is about to leave when he mentions that, why can't he just get a new initiator, as it's nothing new for an old initiator to leave their promoter? This causes Rentaro to become enraged as he reminds the old man that he doesn't treat Anjou to be his tool and that he cares about her deeply. After saying this, he leaves to head for Anjou somewhere else. After he leaves, the old man asks Anjou to come out and tells her that she has found herself an extremely kind young man who will always take care of her. Rentaro doesn't know what to do, so he heads to Sumeri's lab, where she tells him that it's extremely difficult to change the perception of all the people as they suffered terribly under the Gastrea attacks. So for him to expect everyone to become kind to those children who have the cursed blood in their veins is extremely stupid. However, Rentaro retorts by saying that they are just children who have the same feelings and emotions as the other ones. This puts a smile on Sumeri's face as she assures him that if he continues to hold this view in his heart, he will be able to help all those cursed children. After talking with Sumeri, Rentaro is about to go back to search for Anjou when he receives a call from her school that Anjou has come back to the school. This causes Rentaro to immediately head back to Anjou's school, where he finds that everyone is bullying Anjou for having Gastrea's blood, and even her friends aren't willing to take her side. This causes Anjou to become extremely disheartened, so when she sees Rentaro, she immediately hugs him and starts to cry. Rentaro tries to comfort Anjou, telling her they can switch schools, but with tears in her eyes, she shakes her head. I don't want to leave my friends behind. Rentaro's heart sinks as he gently replies, they're not your friends anymore. Rentaro is about to take her away when a police helicopter lands beside them, so he immediately takes Anjou on board and leaves. Kisara informs him on the call that they have received news of the mysterious case and that he should head out to retrieve it. Rentaro immediately accepts the task, but is worried because Anjou doesn't seem to be in a good mental state. He is about to ask if she is all right when suddenly a Gastrea appears beneath their chopper, which causes Anjou to drop down as if she's in a Fortnite battle royale and lands on the head of the flying Gastrea. Her kick causes the Gastrea to fall, which makes Rentaru order the pilot to decrease the altitude so he can land as well. The pilot asks him to just use the rope to land on the ground. So Rentaro has no choice but to act like James Bond and land in a Hollywood style. After landing, he finds Anjou, who is crazily fighting the Gastrea. After blowing up the last of the Gastrea with her powerful kicks, she runs towards Rentaro to hug him. She tells Rentaro that she fought against Gastrea, which proves she isn't one of them. But Rentaro can't say anything, as nothing will change the mind of those children who lost their parents to these monstrous creatures. However, he calms down Anjou and walks towards the Gastrea who dropped the mysterious case. He picks it up and is about to leave when suddenly Kagatani ambushes him, which causes Rentaro to back away in fear. Anjou also takes on Kohina, who wanted to cut apart Rentaru for being disrespectful to her father. Rentaru is worried for this little girl with daddy issues, but the circumstances force him to take a stand against them. Rentaro tries to defend himself, but Kagatani is extremely strong, which causes him to be unable to do anything to him. Instead, he gets badly injured, so he orders Anjou to leave, so at least she can survive. Anjou understands that they need backup, so she leaves to look for someone. Till then, Rentaro is all alone against his two monstrous people with weird family issues. Rentaru fights with everything he has, but Kohina moves too fast. In a flash, her sword slices through him, leaving him gasping for air as blood pools beneath him. Rentaru knows that this is it for him, so he uses his last bit of energy to curse Kagatane's 7 ancestors and drops down the cliff right into the raging river. That's even more raging than my boner when I see Sumari on the screen. Rentaro wakes up in the hospital, all patched up by the doctors. Kisara walks into his room and tells him that he's been asleep for 1.5 days. She also mentions that it was Anjou who called for backup and rescued him. Rentaru is about to ask her where Anjou is when he feels something under his sheets, which reveals the small frame of our cutest Anjou. After a few wholesome moments, Kisara drops the bomb that the mysterious case is a secret weapon to summon a level 5 Gastrea. This shocks Rentaru, as level 5 Gastreas are supposed to be the extinction level Gastrethado can't be created due to mutation, as there only exists a specific number of them. However, Kisara assures him that it's the truth, and if they don't stop Kagatane, the whole Tokyo district will go extinct, just like the cities that collapsed in the tragedy 10 years ago. Rentaru promises Kisara that he will not let it happen, as he asks her to contact Dr. Sumire for him. Sumire comes to his hospital room and hands him the components made of Veranium. Rentaru comments that he dreamt of the surgery that she performed on him 10 years ago, which causes Sumire to apologize to him, but Rentaru assures her that he doesn't hold anything against her for that. After getting ready for the upcoming battle, Rentaru and Anjou perform a brofist and leave to stop that weirdo and his crazy daughter with daddy issues. They are taken to the forest outside the city, where Rentaru and Anjou carefully avoid the Gastrea and arrive in front of a stranded cabin, where they hear an explosion. Rentaru carefully heads inside, only to find a little girl named Keio, who is supposed to be that burly guy's initiator. She tells Rentaru that she and her promoter got separated, so now she is all alone here. Rentaru asks her why she used explosives, so she explains that she is a dolphin-type initiator, who is very smart but weak physically. Rentaru patches her up, which causes her to ask why he is so kind, but Rentaru isn't able to answer her. She tells Rentaru that she is a murderer who killed a man just a few hours ago, which causes Rentaru to become angry. But he stops, as he knows that he isn't any saint either. Just then, she receives a message from her promoter, who asks her to come help him, as they have located Kagatane. Kaio leads Rentaru and Anjou to the location where the fate of Tokyo District resides. After arriving at the location, they all are ambushed by Gastrea, which causes Kaio to stay behind, so Rentaru and Anjou can stop Kagatane. Rentaru is a bit hesitant to leave her alone, but after seeing the seriousness on her face, he leaves her behind and heads out to stop the weirdo with the kink to destroy the world. Rentaru and Anjou quickly arrive at the location, where they find nothing but the corpses of the promoters who arrived before them. This causes both Anjou and Rentaru to become tense as they walk each step slowly, when suddenly, the burly man who is supposed to be Kaio's promoter walks towards them, and he asks Rentaru if he has seen his sword. Just then, he falls, revealing his large sword inserted deep inside himself. Rentaru and Anjou are shocked when suddenly they hear the laughter of Kohina, who praises the burly man for staying alive for so long. Rentaru turns around and finds Kagatane standing in front of him, so he immediately jumps to attack him. But Kagatane just laughs at him because it's futile against his sturdy force field, which is akin to Zhongle's shield from Genshin Impact. However, Rentaru proves him wrong as he unleashes his full power, which reveals that he is also mechanized just like Kagatane. This causes Kagatane to have a big shock, but he laughs even more hysterically as this battle would be fun. While they are both exchanging blows, Enju and Kohina are also going toe-to-toe. However, their battle stops when Rentaru, who was supposed to have the upper hand, gets pierced right through the stomach due to one of Kagatane's sneak attacks. Rentaru feels that he is about to die, but he is not willing to die before saving Enju and all the cursed children. So he injects himself with a few injections that are made from Gastrea's blood. The function of these injections is to grant a human the regenerative ability of the Gastrea at the 25% risk of them turning into Gastrea themselves. But Rentaru survives all odds and successfully heals himself without becoming a Gastrea. He then uses his newly gained strength to punch straight through Kagatane's force field as he delivers a blow straight on his stupid mask. Kagatane can't believe that he lost to a high schooler as he falls into the deep sea. Kohina seems to have lost everything as she can only cry for her father while staring at the surface of the ocean. Rentaru and Enju, on the other hand, receive a call from Kisara, who informs them that the mission has failed as the level 5 Gastrea was summoned even without Kagatane. Rentaru is still having a hard time believing what Kisara just said when she tells him that now it's his job to stop the Gastrea by using humanity's forbidden weapon, Heaven's Ladder. Rentaru is assigned this mission as he is the closest to Heaven's Ladder, so he and Enjo hurry towards the weapon to stop the Gastrea as soon as possible. In the meantime, Tokyo District's defense forces try their best to stop the level 5 Gastrea, but their weapons barely put a dent on the giant monstrosity. Rentaru and Enju arrive at the Heaven's Ladder and head inside, which activates the operating system. Rentaru inserts a special device so it can be operated remotely through the Tokyo District's headquarters. However, just when the system loads, it gives off a warning that there is no ammunition in the storage. So Rentaru has to quickly think of a way to solve this problem, so he decides to sacrifice his Varanium arm to use that as the ammunition to kill the level 5 Gastrea. He tears up his arm and places it in the empty shell. He then heads back to the control room to activate the system once again, when he learns that the system can't be operated remotely, so he has to shoot it on his own. Rentaru is terrified, but Enjo gives him courage as they both shoot the laser beam at the level 5 Gastrea that annihilates it without any problem. After leaving Heaven's Ladder, Rentaru heads out to find Keo, but it's already too late as Keo is on the brink of death as she lays against a boulder. She thanks Rentaru for looking out for her, but feels sad that she is soon about to turn into Gastrea. She requests Rentaru to kill her while she is still a human and informs him that it is nice to make a friend like him. Rentaru, whose eyes are already misty, tells her that he was also pleased to make her a friend and shoots her. After completing the mission, Rentaru meets up with Kikunoju, whom Rentaru suspects to be the proprietor behind this whole incident. Kikunoju accepts the responsibility, but he isn't ashamed as he wants to use this chance to cancel the law that Saitenshi wanted to make to protect the cursed children and give them full rights. However, Kikunoju doesn't want those cursed children to have full rights as their blood caused the death of his son and his daughter-in-law. Rentaru wants to pump this old man's head full of bullets, but he controls himself and leaves. Afterward, he heeds to Saitenshi's Mainor and asks her about the truth behind Gastries. He informs her that the mysterious case had a children's bicycle in it, and why was it the catalyst to summon a level 5 Gastria? Saitenshi reminds him that he is nothing but a level 5 punk, so he has no right to know of this information. This makes Rentaru realize that if he wants to learn the truth about this world, he needs to level up to become a level 100 mafia boss, but for that, he needs to set up a name for himself. Afterwards, he heads to receive Enjo from the hospital, whose weekly examination was delayed. She asks Rentaru about her corruption rate, to which Rentaru replies that it's the same 24%. This makes Enjo happy as she won't be turning into Gastrea any sooner and can continue to spend time with her beloved Rentaru. However, Rentaru feels conflicted as he lies to Enjo about her corruption rate. In reality, she is already 43% corrupted, and if she gains 7% more, she will turn into a Gastria. Later, Rentaru and Kisara are going to school when she asks him about Enjo changing schools. Rentaru tells her that he hasn't yet decided on anything as the last time was already bad enough for Enjo. While they are discussing the pros and cons, Kisara mentions a job that will earn Rentaro a lot of money. Rentaro inquires more and learns that it's a job to become a bodyguard for Saitenshi, as she has been too much into the limelight recently. Rentaro is still hesitant about accepting it, but he decides to meet with Saitenshi first. He heads to the city center, where he meets Saitenshi, who has just finished her meeting. Saitenshi requests Rentaro to accept the job as she trusts him, but Rentaro informs her that he will decide later on. Saitenshi accepts his decision and introduces him to her personal security team, which was assigned to her by Kikunoju. The leader of the team is a haughty personnel named Takuto, who looks down at Rentaro as if he's a walking piece of garbage. Rentaro doesn't mind his stare and excuses himself, but after walking through this giant building for a while, Rentaro realizes that he is a bit lost. Just then, he is surrounded by Takuto and his thugs who take him to the nearby bathroom and force him to reject this job. But Rentaro advises them to mind their own business, which causes Takuto to become angry as he points his gun at Rentaro. But he underestimates Rentaro, who kicks him away and even manages to leave a scar on his face. The commotion attracts the security, which causes Takuto and his hooligans to run away in fear of being exposed. After dealing with the security, Rentaro is allowed to leave as he heads outside and notices a bunch of grown men bullying a little girl. As a certified PDF file, Rentaro saves the little girl, who thanks Rentaro for saving her. But midway through her sentence, she falls asleep, so Rentaro wakes her, which causes her to apologize as she takes a few caffeine pills to get back some energy. Rentaro is confused, so she explains that she is nocturnal, which causes her to take these caffeine pills to gain enough energy to stay awake throughout the day. After explaining her condition, the girl introduces herself to be Tina, but she doesn't remember anything else. Rentaro asks her a few questions, but she isn't able to answer any of them, like where her house is or where her guardians are. This makes Rentaro a bit worried for her, so he leaves her his number, which she immediately dials to confirm whether he gave her the right number or not. Rentaro is shocked to see this and wonders what caused this girl to become like this. After confirming that the number is correct, Tina leaves as she just remembered where her apartment is. After Rentaro leaves, Tina calls a man on the phone and informs him that she has successfully infiltrated Tokyo District. Afterward, Tina heads back home and gets ready to prepare for the assassination of Saitenshi. After receiving the details, she leaves with her trusty sniper, but midway, she is stopped by a police officer who asks what she is doing out here this late. This causes Tina to panic as she asks her master what to do, who orders her to kill the police officer and leave. A few minutes later, Rentaro passes through that same road and notices the police taking care of the scene after Tina leaves. Anju feels bad for the police officer who died and asks why can't humans just live in peace. Rentaro doesn't have the answer to that, so he stays silent as they arrive home. Rentaro cooks up the dinner and is about to enjoy it with Anju, when suddenly he hears a knock on the door, which reveals a girl about the same age as Rentaro with a plastic bag in her hands. She walks inside and falls on the floor, causing Anju to ask who she is. Rentaro answers that she is Miori, the student council president of his school. Just then, he hears another knock and opens the door to find Kisara with a bag full of premium A5 Wagyu beef. She hurriedly asks Rentaro to cook it because she is extremely hungry. Saying this, she also falls on top of Miori, which causes Rentaro to become worried as these both girls are like fire and water. Rentaro leaves this problem to his future self, as he feeds Miori some medicine while he cooks the beef that Kisara brought. While they are eating the food, both girls stare at each other ready to pounce. Rentaro mediates between them, which causes Miori to suggest he should leave Kisara and instead marry her. Kisara becomes angry and tells Miori to stay away from Rentaro, which starts another war between them. While Miori is the reason why he receives free equipment as he promotes her father's company, while Kisara is his childhood friend. Their fight only benefits one person, and that's Anju, who wants nothing but less competition so she can secure her beloved Rentaro for herself. Later, Rentaro, who has accepted the job to be Saitenshi's bodyguard, arrives at the building where Saitenshi will be meeting with Sugen, the current head of the Osaka district. Sugen is surprised to see Rentaro here and taunts him, which causes Rentaro to give him a taste of his own medicine as he asks why he is still alive. Sugen doesn't mind his behavior as he gets back to talking with Saitenshi, and he tells him that the country which gains back its power, the first after they are done with Gastrea, would be the one to rule this world. But Saitenshi fights back by saying that humans have already suffered too much, so it's time for them to remove their differences and walk the path forward together. Their meeting doesn't come to any conclusion, which upsets Saitenshi, but Rentaro assures her that she fought extremely well by not submitting in front of Sugen. Saitenshi thanks Rentaro and tells him that he is extremely good to her, which causes Anjo to wake up as she tells her that Rentaro only likes big melons, so he won't settle for small melons like her. This causes Saitenshi to blush, as she didn't know Rentaro was this sort of person. But before Rentaro can defend himself, Anju informs him that she feels something bad is about to happen. Just then, they are attacked, which causes Rentaro to take Saitenshi out of the car and protect her. Tina is extremely sharp and targets accurately, but she is up against Rentaro, who is the best at the best. Rentaro deflects the bullet and takes Saitenshi to a safe position, which causes Tina to fail in her mission. This makes both Tina and Rentaro question who was the opponent on the other side, as they couldn't see each other clearly. The following morning, Tina calls Rentaro and asks him to bring some food with him. Rentaro comes to her location, where she puts a lot of caffeine tablets on the food, so she can stay awake for the rest of the day. But as she is too sleepy, she keeps on dropping the food on the floor, so Rentaro has no choice but to feed her by his own hand. While feeding her, Rentaro keeps on checking around to see whether someone is recording him, because he doesn't want to end up on the news for being yet another Drake. After Tina is done with her food, Rentaro wipes her face so she is neat and clean. This makes Tina very happy, as she confesses to Rentaro that she likes him. Rentaro is sure that this is a bait to put him in jail, so he tells her that she is way too young for his liking. However, Tina replies that age is just a number, which causes Rentaro to answer that jail is also just a room. After realizing that she cannot get her feelings into Rentaro's heart, Tina thanks him for the food and for being so kind to her. Ever since her parents died, this world has become painful for her to live in. Rentaro feels bad for her and is about to console her when suddenly her phone rings, so she leaves saying her goodbyes to Rentaro. Tina picks up the call as her master gives her another task, which is to eliminate the president of Tendo Civil Security Company. Tina accepts the mission and immediately heads back to her apartment to get ready. Meanwhile, Rentaro heads back to school, where he bumps into Kisara, who is ready to eliminate Miori once and for all, so she wouldn't have to compete against her to become Rentaro's love interest. But Miori is one step ahead and takes Rentaro into her own secret room and forbids Kisara to barge in. She warns him that any damage caused to this room will be paid by her, which causes Kisara to back away, as she is already far too broke. After taking care of Kisara, Miori takes Rentaro to a giant screen where she shows him everything regarding yesterday's assassination. Rentaro is sure that the assassin was hired by Sugen, as he wants full control over Japan. Miori reminds him that this is a pretty big allegation, but Rentaro is 112% sure of this. While they are discussing the assassination, Miori starts to seduce Rentaro with her respectfully sized melons, but Kisara is a demon whose sixth sense warns him that Miori is cooking something, so she barges into the room and finds them in an awkward position. She asks Rentaro if her round and perky melons aren't enough for him, that he wants to chase after Miori's mid-melons, which have been tasted by who knows how many people. Rentaro realizes that things are getting ugly, so he stops them and tells them that he only likes MILFs who are in their mid-30s. This ruins both Miori's and Kisara's wishes, as Rentaro successfully manages to calm them down. After dealing with them, he receives a call from Sumeri, who invites him and Anju to her lab. There, she informs him that even though he managed to defeat Kagatan, he shouldn't become cocky, as there are still a few prodigies at the top of list of the promoters who are the same as him, with mechanized bodies. Rentaro promises to keep this in mind and is about to leave with Anjo, but Sumeri asks him to leave Anjo behind, as she wants to speak privately with her. Meanwhile, Tina is on her way to eliminate Kisara, as the master gives her more details. He explains that there is an initiator in this company whose name is Anju, and just when he is about to tell her promoter's name, the call cuts off. It's as if fate didn't want her to know that the girl she is just about to kill is related to Rentaro. She quickly makes her way to Kisara's office, where Kisara is busy working. Tina heads inside as Kisara asks her what she is here for. Tina just gives her a warning before emptying a machine gun towards her. Fortunately, Kisara is an extremely talented swordswoman, so she manages to hide behind a desk and jumps out when Tina stops. She immediately cuts the machine gun in half, but Tina is still a cursed child, so her physical strength is way above Kisara's. Tina manages to beat Kisara down and is about to finish her mission, but she hesitates to press the trigger. Kisara realizes that Tina isn't a professional at killing people, so she tries to talk her way out, but Tina instead grabs her throat, threatening to kill her. Kisara can only call for help as she speaks out Rentaro's name, which causes Tina to back away as it finally clicks in her mind. Just then, Rentaru appears on the scene and pushes Tina back, but is shocked to realize that she is the assassin behind everything. Tina also doesn't want to fight Rentaro, so she takes this chance to escape. Meanwhile, Kizara, who has used too much strength, falls into Rentaro's home, who immediately takes her to the hospital. It turns out that Kisara has a kidney disease, which causes her to not be able to use her full strength. She got this disease due to a psychological trauma that she received after watching her parents die in front of her. Kisara thanks Rentaro for saving her and also realizes that she needs to quickly get together with Rentaru, as they both might end up dead any day. So she walks in front of him and asks him to hold her hand. Rentaru is hesitant, but then remembers Sumeri's advice and is about to grab her hand, when Enju appears out of nowhere and starts changing the shape of Kisara's melons. After making sure that Kisara is safe, Rentaro heads back to escort Saitenshi, as she has yet another meeting planned with Sogen. Rentaro warns Saitenshi that Sugen is probably the one who hired that assassin. But Saitenshi tells him that even though she might die, as the head of a state, she needs to do things that she must do. Rentaru tells Saitenshi that she is a good girl, and that he will protect her. They soon arrive at a checkpost where Takuto is furious at him for bringing Saitenshi in such a cheap car. But Rentaru tells him that the limousine is way too fancy and eye-catching, so it was better to use such a vehicle. Just then, Enju notices that something is off as they get attacked by Tina, who is targeting them from far away. Rentaro protects Saitenshi with his body and immediately takes her back into the car, so they can go to a place that's safe for her. After arriving at a parking lot, Enjo asks Rentaro to allow her to chase after Tina, and promises that she will come back alive. After Enju leaves, Saitenshi comes back to inform Rentaro that she just used her authority to search Tina, and she found that she is ranked at number 97, and her promoter is the same as him, a mechanized human. Rentaro immediately calls Enjo, but only to find that it's Tina who picks up her phone. This causes him to drop the phone on the ground as he starts to have a panic attack. Fortunately, when the rescue team arrived, Enjo was still alive. They took her to hospital where the doctors said that it would take 2 days for her to wake up. However, Rentaro can't wait that long as there is the third meeting between Saitenshi and Sugen. Aside from that, he is extremely angry at himself for being this weak that he can't even protect Enjo, let alone all the cursed children. Kisara wants to console him, but he reeks of male stink, so she asks him to take a shower first. Poor Rentaru can't even take a nap in his favorite woman's lap. So after taking a shower, he heads outside to punch some concrete to take out his anger. While he is punching some walls, Takuto informs him that the third meeting will happen tomorrow. And since his initiator is in the hospital, he better drop out. Rentaro, who is already angry, becomes even more furious as he orders Takuto to go and arrange a fake route, or else he will pump his empty brain full of his Veranium bullets. Takuto becomes afraid, and immediately heads back to the security department to arrange it. After taking out his anger at Takuto, Rentaro heads to Sumeri's lab where he asks her if there is any way he can defeat Tina. Sumeri tells him that the way things currently are, there is no chance of him defeating Tina without using any roundabout ways. So they craft a plan for him to defeat Tina, but it involves a lot of risk, but Rentaru is ready to give away his life. After cooking up a plan with Sumeri, Rentaro heads to Miori and requests her to allow him to use their training facility. Rentaro, with his newly found motivation scores way higher than his previous self, but he is still 10 times weaker than Tina, which causes him to become depressed. But he knows that he can't back out now, so he packs up his stuff and arrives at the location where he sets for his duel with Tina. Tina is also there to stop him as she tells Rentaro to leave as she doesn't want to kill him. But Rentaro can't back out, so he heads straight into the building where Tina is white, avoiding all the bullets being shot at him. Using the tactics that he learned from James Bond movies, Rentaro jumps from one floor to another till he arrives at the floor where Tina is. But he finds that she has already escaped when he receives a call from Miori, who tells him that there are 5 machine guns placed in different parts of the building that were also probably used to ambush Enjo. Rentaro carefully avoids all of them as much as he can, but he still gets shot a few times. But with his tough body, he is able to sustain it and arrives in front of Tina, who immediately vanishes away from his eyes. Rentaru becomes careful as he keeps on looking around when Tina suddenly appears from the top of the floor and attacks him with a blow that sends Rentaru crashing into the floors below. Rentaru's plan was to use a flash grenade, but unfortunately, his luck ran out and the grenade didn't explode. Rentaru laughs at his fate as Tina points the gun at his head, though with intention of killing him. Rentaru thanks Tina for not killing Enju the other day, and tells her that he feels extremely bad for her, and that how she is forced to kill people. Tina tells him that it's her only purpose left in life, so without it, she will die from inside. Rentaru can only pity her as he leaves his fate in her hand. But just then, Anjo's image flashes in his mind as the flash grenade that was on the floor explodes all of a sudden, blinding Tina. Rentaru uses this chance to attack her, and after giving her a few powerful kicks and punches, he manages to knock her down. Tina begs Rentaru to end her miserable life, but as a certified PDF file, Rentaru tells her that she deserves to live and takes her with him. Tina reminds him to take responsibility as he is the reason that she is now willing to live. But just then, Tina is shot in the stomach as Rentaru turns around and finds that the shooter is none other than Takuto. Rentaru yells at Takuto in anger, but his man holds him down as Takuto walks towards Tina with the intention to kill her. Rentaru warns Takuto that he will kill his entire family if he touches Tina, but Takuto acts as if he didn't hear him and cooks his gun to shoot the final shot. But just then, Saitenshi arrives and orders him to stop. She asks Rentaru what he wants from her as he saves her life. So Rentaru tells her that he needs power, the power to protect the people that he loves. After hearing his request, Saitenshi immediately grants his request and gives him the top 300 rank. This makes Rentaru eligible to know the top secrets, as well as makes him superior in rank to Takuto. After receiving the promotion, Rentaru shoots Takuto's hand to avenge Tina, and warns him that the next time he makes a move against his people, the bullet will be fired in his head. With everything solved, Rentaru heads back to the office where he finds that Kisara hired Tina to work at the office, as she doesn't have any place to go. Tina is also happy to serve Rentaru so she can pay him back for not killing her. Now that Rentaru has some authority, he decides to do something for the cursed children. He heads to the border of the city, where most cursed children stay, and opens a classroom for them, so he can teach them about basic things so they can become a part of modern society. After giving his introduction, Rentaru asks the girls if they want to ask any questions, to which a few girls raise their hands as they ask Rentaru if it is true that he likes young children, or if he plans to become a Minecraft YouTuber. Another girl asks him if he promised Enju that he will marry her. Rentaru becomes aggravated and tells everyone that he is not a PDF file, nor does he want to marry Enju. But as they say, once you get some allegations, you can never beat them. It's the same case for Rentaru, who is forced to live his new identity. After Rentaru is forced to get away from the stage, Kisara takes his place and introduces herself to the children. But the children stop her midway and ask her if her melons are so big that she can't see her toes, or if she also is in love with Rentaru. Kisara finally feels the 1% pain of what Rentaru was feeling and steps away from the stage. Later, Rentaru is teaching the girls about basic geography when Saitenshi arrives at the scene and takes Rentaru away for a discussion. She informs him that the 11th monolith is under attack by Gastreus, and at the rate they are going on, it will be destroyed in 4 days. Even though the construction engineers are trying to rebuild it, it will still take 9 days to complete it. So by then, it will be his and his comrades' duty to hold back the 2,000 Gastrias that will be led by a level 4 Gastria. As for who his comrades will be, she leaves it to him to recruit them. This news makes Rentaru rethink his decisions, so he starts to think of a plan to save the Tokyo district. Later, Rentaru heads home where he is greeted by Anjo and Tina, who are cosplaying as their favorite anime characters. After receiving praise from Rentaru, they all sit down to enjoy a nice dinner, which is a pizza made by Tina. After dinner, Anjo immediately falls asleep while Tina stays beside Rentaru as she can't fall asleep. They talk about various things that Tina would have never experienced if not for Rentaru. While they are talking, Rentaru mentions the monolith situation as it will probably require Tina to join the battlefield once again, but Tina assures him that he doesn't need to worry as this life was bestowed to her by him, so he can use her however he wants. This causes Rentaru to cough as her words can be taken out of context and might end up putting him in jail. Tina becomes more and more comfortable with Rentaru and asks him if she can call him Big Brother. As a certified sister con, Rentaru is more than happy to allow her to call him Big Brother, which causes them to become even close. After talking for a while, they all fall asleep right next to each other, leaving a beautiful scene behind that might be used as a piece of evidence against Rentaru in the future, if he became popular. The The following morning, Rentaro wakes up from the sound of Kisara opening the door as she asks him where Tina is. Rentaro looks around but doesn't find her when he suddenly feels some movement towards his lower body as a head pops out, revealing it to be Tina. Tina rubs her eyes and tells Rentaro that the last night was extremely pleasant, as he taught her a lot of new things. Rentaro wants to put a stop to her mouth, but it's already too late as Kisara takes out her phone to call the police. Even Onjo is disappointed in him for going after Tina when he already had her before. Fortunately, Rentaro is able to clear the misunderstanding as his life and dignity both are saved. Rentaro then takes Tina out to meet different people so they can recruit them. But he also wants to show her the Tokyo district, so she can also enjoy a bit of normal life. After touring the city for a while, they are walking out of the mall when they find a blind little girl begging for money. The blind girl has a written plaque around her head that says that she is a cursed child from the outer district. But he is confused as to why she is blind, as cursed children tend to not have any diseases. The little girl answers that she poured lead into her eyes because her mother hated her due to her red eyes. Rentaro feels extremely bad for the little girl. Rentaro also knows that the public is trying to force the government into kicking all the cursed children out of the district, so he gives her some money and asks her to never appear here as it's too dangerous. Afterward, Rentaro heads to his old friend's house in order to recruit him. Tamaki is a bit hesitant, but after Rentaro tells him that he should fight for him, Tamaki becomes serious and decides to join him. But before that, he wants to test him, so they organize a fight. Rentaro and Tina easily beat up Tamaki and his initiator, Yuzuki, who falls in love with Tina after noticing her strength. After recruiting Tamaki, Rentaro heads to Sumari's lab, who calls him to bring some food with him as she is dying from hunger. Rentaro arrives at the lab with Tina and hands over the food to Sumari, who starts chewing it down like a cow munching on grass. She looks at Tina and tells Rentaro that he has acquired yet another fine member for his Rentaro Island. This causes Tina to fight back that her big brother is nothing like what she said. This causes Sumari to laugh as she tells Tina that Rentaro is a big pervert, who is known throughout the city to be a certified lover boy, a certified PDF file. Tina looks at Rentaro and can't help but feel bad for him. Rentaro explains that she is just messing with her and that he is completely harmless. After Tina is put to sleep by Sumari, she tells Rentaro that she dug out some info about the Gastrea War using his level 5 security access. This revealed a bunch of information, such as the mysterious case which had the bicycle in it. Sumari has some idea as to what is the reason behind everything, but she can't help but feel if it is missing something important. Rentaro wants to learn more, but their conversation is cut short due to an emergency call from the Defense Ministry, who informs him that the monolith is falling faster than their calculations. Rentaro is forced to rush to the battlefield, where he learns that Tina can't participate, as she is still blacklisted. This makes Tina sad, but Enjo assures her that she will take care of Rentaro on her behalf. After dealing with Tina, Rentaro and Enjo head to recruit more teammates, but they don't find anyone interesting. Just when they are about to head back, they notice a crowd who are surrounding the corpse of a man clad in armor. The sharp marks on the armor are the only clue. Rentaro wants to investigate, but he notices an even bigger crowd, so he heads there and finds a white-haired man fighting against a burly man. The white-haired man's initiator is a little girl with sharp claws who easily defeats the opposite duo. Rentaro recognizes the white-haired man to be his senior at the dojo where he used to practice. Shuma also notices Rentaro and is surprised to see him. Both these old friends catch up while they introduce each other to their respective members. Shuma also ends up joining Rentaru's crew as they are still lacking a few members. Shuma's initiator, Midori, is very shy, but she quickly becomes a favorite amongst the little girls due to her cat ears. While the girls are playing with each other, the adults talk about the war, when talk about their fewer team members. When suddenly Kisara appears from the shadows alongside Tina, who informs them that they were approved to join the battlefield too. Rentaro feels that it's dangerous for Kisara due to her health issues, but she tells him that she will be fine, and she doesn't want to leave him alone behind. This causes both of them to get emotional, as Rentaro holds Kisara's shoulder and is about to confess his feelings, but stops due to interference from his party members who call him a traitor for making a move on Kisara behind their backs. After heading back to the camp, they all raise their fists as they cheer for each other for the upcoming battle. The following morning, Rentaro and Kisara head to the Cursed Children's School, where he asks them to write what they want to be in the future. Anju is the first one to finish, as she tells Rentaro that she wants to become his bride and kiss him daily. Tina follows her example and writes the same thing, but after realizing what she wrote, she becomes extremely embarrassed. The other children are still writing, but they don't know what to write. So Rentaro asks Kisara if they have enough budget to go on a field trip. Kisara gives him the last bit of money she has, which Rentaro uses to take all the girls on a trip to look around the city. In the end, he takes them to a monument that represents the heroes who fought bravely in the war against Gastreya. This causes the children to ask Rentaro if they are all going to die, but Rentaro assures them that he will protect them as he and Kisara will be fighting in the war against Gastreya. This causes the children to become delighted as they all gather around Rentaro and tell him that they like him and want to marry him in the future. Rentaro feels that he can't beat the allegations, so he just accepts them and lets the children do whatever they want. Later, he heads back to the camp where Kisara asks him to come with him to check on the 32nd monolith. Kisara asks Rentaro to wipe the surface of the monolith, which causes it to fall down like the hair of a middle-aged man. While they are checking the monolith, Rentaro feels that something feels off, so he asks Kisara to investigate it. After walking around for a while, they lie down on the grass while talking about the future. Kisara tells Rentaro that she doesn't want to lose him or the children, so he grabs her hand and assures her that he will protect her and the children, so they can all be happy together in the future. After consoling Kisara, they head back to the camp as it's too late. The following morning, Rentaro is walking through the city, which has been vandalized due to the fear cast upon people's hearts by the upcoming Gastreya attack. It's when he finds the blind girl being bullied by a bunch of dudes, so he stops them and checks to see if the girl is all right or not. After making sure, he advises her to leave as the girl maps out his face and tells him that he is exactly her type, which causes Rentaro to blush as he tells her that she needs to get out of the city quickly as it's dangerous. In the evening, Kisara receives the investigation reports, which causes her mood to worsen, so she immediately throws them in the fire, but Rentaro pulls them out and reads what's remaining, to find that the 32nd monolith was constructed by Kazumi, who is a member of Tendu clan, as well as the vice minister of the architecture department. The following morning, Rentaro leaves with Unjo to check up on the cursed children, but after arriving at the school, he finds that all the children were killed in a bomb blast. He immediately heads to check up on their condition, and it's just like the police officer said. They all died, with none of them surviving. The caretaker of the children also seems to have aged 10 years due to the shock. Unjo wants to see them as well, but she is stopped by the police. She manages to get inside, and what awaits her causes her to lose her mind. Rentaro feels like giving up on this world that can't even protect such innocent children. But Kisara calls him and tells him that he is a civil security officer, and it's his job to make this rotten world correct. Just then, the monolith that was supposed to collapse in 2 days collapses due to a weak foundation and heavy air pressure. Rentaro immediately heads to Unju, who seems to have lost her soul, but he asks her to bear with it, as they have a city to save. After arriving at the battlefield, Rentaro realizes how bad the situation is. Despite the humans tearing down the enemy's defenses, it continues to spam more and more Gastreyas. While battling the Gastreyas, Tina warns Rentaro that some of them are creating a flank to ambush them from behind. Rentaro now has only 2 options: stay in his position and die from the ambush, or go deal with the ambush. But if Rentaro decided to deal with the flank, it would be considered treason, as he would be acting against his commander's orders. So Rentaro has to make the difficult choice and deal with the flank while leaving the treason for his future self to handle. Fortunately, Rentaro's team is extremely strong as they are able to deal with the flank. But when they arrive back at their original position, they find that everyone is dead, except the platoon leader, who tells Rentaro that no matter what they do, they can't defeat the Gastreyas as they have the Spear of Light. Rentaro doesn't understand him at first, but when he notices the bright light in the sky which pierces through the humans as if they are made of paper, the platoon leader also ends up dying in the mouth of a Gastreya, which causes this battle to come to an end. Rentaro and others head back to the camp to get some rest. There they realize how tragic this battle was, and it will be only even more tragic if they don't take care of that light of spear. After leaving the camp, Rentaro and his teammates head to an abandoned building, where they make a small camp to spend the night. While eating their dinner, they talk about the battle, which causes everyone to share their discoveries. The conclusion is that the main problem is Spears of Light, which is caused by a Stage 4 Gastreya. The Spear of Light has some mercury properties, as it causes mercury poisoning to those who are hit by it. While they are discussing, Rentaro is summoned to the main base, where the commander Nagamasa tells Rentaro about the Spear of Light and tells him that it is caused by a stage 4 Gastrea that they named Palladius. If they want to win the war, they need to eliminate Palladius, or else even if they defeat the main level 4 Gastrea that is leading them, they won't be able to secure a victory. To deal with Palladius, Nagamasa assigns Rentaro as he has already committed treason, which deserves a death sentence. Nagamasa also promises Rentaro that he will spare his team if he follows this order. Rentaro can only curse this bastard, but for the sake of his team, he has to take this massive L. Rentaro heads back to his own camp and quietly leaves, but he is still detected by Kisara, who wants him to run away with her. Rentaro tells her that he is a man, and as a man, it's his responsibility to take care of his own matters. After saying his farewells, he leaves towards the enemy area, where he is continuously chased by Gastreus, who causes him to fall into a river. Rentaro expected this to be his end, and is kind of relieved that his shitty life is over. But he gets saved by Kagatane, who is surprisingly still alive. Kagatane takes him to a cave and even gives him food and a bandage, but despite that, Rentaro doesn't trust him. But Kagatane tells him that he isn't against him anymore, as Rentaro will sooner or later walk the path that he is walking. The following morning, Rentaro wakes up and realizes that Kagatane and Kohina aren't there, so he packs up his stuff and leaves. But exiting the cave, he is greeted by Kagatane, who decides to lead him to Palladius, as he knows where it is. After traveling for a while, they manage to find Palladius, and with Kagatane and him joining forces, they are able to kill Palladius, which causes all the Gastreas in the surrounding area to go crazy. Even the level 4 Gastrea, Aldebaran, goes crazy, who was supposed to lead the Gastreas. This causes Rentaro to become worried, so he immediately gets back to the camp and informs Saitenshi that he has killed Palladius, so they can now start using aerial attacks. Saitenshi immediately orders the use of missiles, which puts a lot of damage on Aldebaran. But despite that, it immediately heals up. This reminds Rentaro of Nagamasa's comment that Aldebaran is immortal. After failing to do anything to Aldebaran, the human army retreats as Rentaro reunites with his teammates. There, Rentaro learns that Commander Nagamasa has died, so according to the rules of the military, the second highest-ranked military personnel would take his rank. That person is none other than Rentaro, so he is forced to take the role of the commander. Rentaro and his teammates head back to the camp, where he finds that Midori was attacked by a toxic Gastrea, which caused her to lose her senses. Her corruption rate also increased above the limit, so she's resting at the base now. Rentaro heads to the base to meet with her, where she tells Rentaro that he was one of the kinder people that she met. He and Shuma changed her life, and she was glad that she was able to fight by their side. Saying this, she gets up and leaves for the bathroom. But when she doesn't return for a while, Rentaro realizes that something is off, so he immediately starts searching for her, only to find that she has unalived herself because of the fear that she will be a burden on the time. Shuma is extremely saddened by her death, but he decides not to tell anyone else, in fear that they might feel bad for her. So he just tells everyone that Midori ran away. He also mentions to Rentaro that he didn't escape from the dojo, but that he was excommunicated by them. It's because he managed to create an attack style that destroyed enemies from the inside, which was different from their own style, so they kicked him. Later, Rentaro heads to the base camp to see Nagamasa's body, where he meets Asaka, his imitator, who doesn't accept Rentaro as the new commander. But Shuma coerces her by saying that he lost his partner, so he needs a new initiator. So that's how they both form a temporary team till the battle is over. Now that he is the commander, Rentaro summons Miori to be the technical advisor, who tells him that she has found a way to defeat Aldebaran. The key is the electroplasmic bomb in her hand, which will be detonated from inside the Aldebaran's body. The weapon to plant the bomb inside Aldebaran's body will be Rentaro. After receiving the details, Rentaro takes care of the rebels at the army camp who want to leave. After taking care of them, Kagatane also joins them, as he wants to see the end of this show as well. However, what he doesn't know is that Takudo and his hooligans destroyed the batteries that were going to be used as the light source in the attack at night. He caused all of this so he could cause Rentaro's operation to become a failure and eventually lead to his death. At night, Rentaro and others realize that something must have happened to the delivery team that was supposed to deliver the batteries. So Rentaro orders the troops to attack even though it's pitch black. But just then, thousands of balloons appear in the sky filled with warm light. Saitenshi informs Rentaro that they are the hope of the remaining people and that he must stop the Gastrea invasion. With the warm light from the sky, the troops manage to eliminate the Gastreas so Rentaro can get close to Aldebaran's body. Rentaro also keeps on running till he eventually manages to open up a wound and place the EP bomb inside its body. After he leaves, the bomb that was supposed to detonate doesn't work due to an unknown error. This causes everyone to become disappointed and depressed, just like the people who signed for the slaves to become free. Realize that the petition they signed meant something else. Rentaro knows that it's their last chance, so he once again runs towards Aldebaran to detonate the bomb somehow. But what he forgets about is that Aldebaran has corrosive properties that melt Varanium like ice in high heat. The corrosion makes Rentaro's Varanium limbs fall off, which halts him in his mission. But just when Rentaro thinks everything is over, Shuma arrives and places Rentaro to the side and tells him that it's his job to finish this as he created something that was taboo, so it is fine for him to disappear with Aldebaran. Saying this, he walks towards the Aldebaran and punches it with his special attack style, which causes the EP bomb to explode from the inside. Both Aldebaran and Shuma disappear into thin air as nothing is left of them. Meanwhile, Saitenshi creates better laws for the cursed children, which gives them a few more rights to live like normal people. Kisara, on the other side, confronts Kazumitsu about his involvement in the corrosion of 32nd monoliths and his involvement in the war that resulted in her parents dying in front of her. Kazumitsu accepts it, but since he has the money and power, no one can touch her. So Kisara uses their family style to solve this matter. She had created a special style to kill her family members, and using that, she brutally massacres Kazumitsu in front of his wife. Rentaro realizes that Kisara has fallen to the dark side, yet he isn't able to help her. Meanwhile, Kisara also feels disappointed in Rentaro as she expects him to praise her. Later, Rentaro and Anju are heading back home when Rentaro realizes that he has started to grow used to death, so he starts crying and begs Anju to not leave her or he might go crazy from the loneliness. Anju hugs him back and promises that they will always be together no matter what. With Rentaro parting ways with Kisara, he is forced to decide whether to go evil like Kisara and judge all the criminals in the world, or choose his own path to become the man that Enjo wants him to be. If you've gotten to this point of the video, let's confuse the fake fans by commenting Cyborg Bear. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you guys next time.